Hey, what is up, YouTube? What is up, Christian Theology fam? So there we got Michael Knowles, School's feminist, on how a marriage should actually look like. Let's get to it, man.
Would like to hear a little bit more from Farah if you'd like to weigh in.
I was just going to ask, maybe I missed it. So what do you think the ideal form of marriage is? Like the woman goes to college and then she meets a guy in college and then she taps out of her career?
I don't know that going to college is really great for anybody these days. I'm pro-education, obviously. I mean, and I'm not even one of these conservatives who says, you should all just study engineering or whatever. I think that's bunk. I think you should read old books and acculturate yourself. But I don't think most colleges accomplish this these days, including the really fancy colleges, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I don't know that maybe you can get an education there. I'm not totally convinced you can. And so, I get women should be educated. But, frankly, these days, you send your kids to a homeschool co-op, they'll start learning Latin in the third grade. You send your kids on the track to go to Yale or Harvard, and they're probably not going to know anything by the time they graduate. I would love my wife to be educated. My wife is extremely educated, and I would love my wife to be a wife and a mother. And I guess the image that I think of for marriage is not as, the modern way of talking about it, where you say, this is my partner. It sounds like a gay accounting firm. This is my total indistinguishable partner.
Super
No,
gay.
I want a wife, man. And I want a mother for my children. I want to be a father, and that involves different roles, and that involves complementarity.
Well, that's what I'm asking. So are you saying that like maybe they'll get educated outside of college, reading books or whatever, and then after that they should focus like at age 23, 24, getting married and then not pursuing a career and focus on family life?
Yeah, I'm not going to prescribe exactly at what age people ought to get married. They certainly ought to get married younger. I wish I'd gotten married younger.
Yo, why does she look like Mia Khalifa? Y'all notice that? Why does she look like Mia Khalifa? The cheap version or something like that. I don't know. The Great Value Members Mark. Nah, but she's not bad looking. Not bad looking.
I don't.
But you would prescribe that they focus on a career with precedence to
Generally speaking, I think women will be less happy if they are going to the widget factory to work for Mr. McGillicuddy so that they can make money that I will then receive from my wife to pay some other woman to raise our children.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an extremely inefficient and disordered way to have a marriage, and I don't think it makes anybody particularly happy.
I guess it confuses me coming from a tradcon because you guys believe in the design of a lot of things. You believe in like the design of sex and what's like the most optimal use of sex. Why did God
Like
give
the
us
purpose
sex?
of, like, the
Yes, and you would
telos.
say like the end of sex would be to pair bond and reproduce. So if women were not meant to pursue careers, why would God, according to your Christian purview, you're Christian, right?
Yeah.
Like equip us with so many rational faculties. Like why are women so good at like aerospace engineering, nanotech, pediatrics,
I don't know if I'd say they're so good at aerospace engineering.
Why are
Maybe
women
there's a few
scoring
out
higher
there,
than you
know.
guys in
I'm just saying.
Come on, stop it, man. How many women are in those fields? How many women even want to be in those fields? Right? Come on, stop it. There's a smart woman out there, bro. There isn't many women in aerospace engineering or something. Right? Come on, stop it.
Why is it
Yeah,
that?
they're not totally represented in these fields.
My
but,
question is,
sure.
if tradcons use God as like their purview for, you know what I mean, use our faculties as the metric
you
for
don't
what
even
we
have
should
to
be
be religious
pursuing,
about this.
why is it that women are now outgraduating men like basically 2-to-1, but then you guys
Because
are
the colleges
prescribing?
are total nonsense now, and they have a bunch of fake majors, and it's a scam.
Is law a fake major? Because now we have more female first year associates.
Right,
than men.
yeah, and law school is largely a scam
I guess
too,
my-
and you've got a glut of lawyers.
Well,
many
my
who can't
question
get
is,
jobs.
why would God equip
Right.
us with these things?
You got public defenders not making money. You got public defenders on OnlyFans trying to make money because the system won't pay them. Right? Come on, stop it.
These faculties, if God did not want us as women to pursue these faculties and instead abandon it at first step for marriage and kids.
The premise of your question is that raising children and running a family in the domestic economy is not a rational activity.
It's not that it's a rational
degraded.
activity, but why
Why
equip
give
us to be
more?
so good at STEM and college
What
and
could
all
be
these
more?
pursuits?
What could be
No,
more
no, no.
important than raising a
I'm not
family?
saying. I'm saying why give women the ability to both have a child and still be able to read like intellectual texts or
To educate the
to look
child.
at aerospace engineer. Well, that's the thing. You can
Wait,
educate
so
a
raise your kid
child,
to be an aerospace engineer, I
Wait,
guess,
wait.
if
but
you're
you
really
can't be an
interested in
aerospace
that.
engineer yourself.
Women can if they like. They generally don't do that.
No, I'm
But-
asking. So is that your position, that God equipped women to be as good at STEM to outgraduate men, all to just
Yeah,
pursue
they're not
homeschooling
You know,
for
if you
their
look
children?
at like Fields Medal recipients, Larry Summers got fired from Harvard for pointing this out. But this is the top prize in mathematics. Until about 10 years ago, no woman had ever won the prize, and now I think one woman has won it. And I'm not knocking. There are plenty of women who are much more intelligent than me. The reason Larry Summers, who's as far as social scientists goes, is a very respected one, and he's a big lib. But he pointed out that the reason why men tend to dominate in the highest intellectual fields is not because men are simply smarter than women, but because the bell curve of intelligence for men is wider than that of women. So
But for a society, isn't it like societies that allow women to work, even us, if we hadn't had women, we brought in like trillions of dollars to the economy to take out half of the minds in the world. In the world,
Yeah, I
because
think life
the
is
bell
about more than
curve,
money.
the top. I agree, but if you want a flourishing, wealthy society, you can't do
I
that
don't
by
think we're
eliminating
I don't
women
think-
from the workforce.
I agree that we're wealthier today than we were 50 years ago. I'm not sure that we're flourishing more than we are. I mean, we're literally a dying society, right? We haven't had above replacement births since 1971.
Would you
Yeah,
be okay with
well-
immigration as a way to?
That's why we have mass migration, but mass migration causes all sorts of social problems,
Wait.
which is why it's deeply unpopular.
Before we pivot,
including on the
I do want
left.
to
Yeah.
pin down your position on this. So yes, the bell curve is wider for men, but on average, the average women are smarter than the average men. Obviously, at the ends of the curves, there's
That wouldn't.
there's
that would
more
not be implied
unintelligent
by-
men and more
the
high
first-
intelligent.
The first thing you said that wouldn't imply the second, right?
It's not implied. That's just the fact. Is the bell curve is wider for men. Like there's more
Right. So that- so
unintelligent
that would
men
be the
and
third
more
line.
intelligent men.
Are you
Right.
talking about the greater male variability hypothesis? Is that
I'm
Yeah.
saying there's on average women are more intelligent than men, but if you look at the most intelligent people, they're more likely
But
to be men. If you
if-
look at the least intelligent
the first
people,
thing-
they're less likely to be men. So I'm asking you
Why does
from
she
your
keep
Christian
saying
purview,
that?
because if you're a nihilist, you're atheist, you could just be like, oh, that's randomized. Who cares? It doesn't necessarily mean it's best for
If
society.
you're a nihilist, you can't say anything at all, because nothing means anything.
Well, that was my point. If you're a nihilist, you could just say those curves should not be indication of how we should live society. But as a Christian, if you think sex is most optimized for certain purposes, you would probably think intelligence is best optimized for certain purposes. So why would God equip the average woman to be smarter than men? Do you think it's just for homeschooling their children?
Again,
Why does
the
she keep
claim that you
saying
made
this?
at first,
God.
which is that men and women have bell curves, the men's bell curve being wider
I know
than the
women
woman's,
think different.
would not imply that the average woman is smarter than the average man.
Oh, no.
It would line them
the
up
curve
exactly. right?
itself
Yeah.
implies or actually indicates that
No, it would
on
just be the
average.
extremes.
No,
Right,
no,
it
no.
would-
If you actually look at the curves at the top, it's women. The women's curve is taller than the men's curve.
The IQ of the curve would be on the x-axis, right? That's where you get the extremes. So I think
So
you're,
are you disputing that on average women are more intelligent
yes.
than men?
That's false.
As would Larry Summers, as would the people who
Doesn't
have
make any
studied this.
sense.
But again, I think it's secondary to the point.
That doesn't make any sense. Come on, stop it, lady. You know that. How many women you seen making, inventing new things? I've rarely seen any woman invent anything. So I don't know if y'all really smart or y'all just smart in different areas. Like men could invent things, a woman could be problem solvers. They could solve problems, right? So maybe that's a different thing that she's talking about. But I've never seen any woman invent things that we really use right now. Who invented the phone? A man. Who invented the internet? A man. This monitors that I'm seeing, a man made it. Come on. This microphone, a man made it. Come on.
Your point is
My
the more
point
interesting
is, why
point
would
of your
God equip us with,
why
to
would
be
God make
so
women
good at
smart?
school
Yeah,
and
yeah.
STEM?
Yeah, yeah.
If women on average were doing really, really poorly in STEM and all these, like if men
Sure.
were the one outgraduating us 2-1, then I can understand from a Christian purview saying like, see, God doesn't want you to be good at school because God wants you to focus on these more domestic pursuits.
Yeah.
But how can you look at all this evidence and think that we're, you know what I mean? We're
Yes.
so
I-
specifically designed by God and then deny that.
I think you've bought the big lie of feminism that goes back to Mary Wollstonecraft, which is that men are endowed with greater virtue than women, and I think it's just bunk.
No.
It's saying the opposite. She's
No,
saying the
you're
opposite.
saying what you're saying is that the most important things to do, the most impressive things to do, just the greatest stuff to do, is to do what most men do, which is go out and work some job.
No, I
say
didn't
that.
even like moralize. I didn't even say that STEM and aerospace and all these industries that women are good at are even morally good. I was just saying they happen to be good at these things. So
But
from a
you're-
Christian purview, you're the one who would
But
ascribe
you're
morality
saying,
to that.
You're saying it's better to do that, I think, because you're saying
From a Christian purview, because you think from
No,
a
no, no.
Christian purview, what you're good at is what you should do. So if women are better at childbearing, they should do that. If sex is best used in this specific use,
Well,
then people should do that.
In that narrow reading, then I think it's pretty clear most women are better at raising children than building rocket ships. So I think probably most women would prefer that. But even more broadly, I think you're exalting male professions in a foolish way. I think that you're
I'm not even hyping them up. I'm just asking you.
I think you are hyping them
From
up.
your theist purview, why would God make women so good at STEM and college and all these pursuits if God just wanted us to tap out as soon as we met a man and
Again,
just focus
I'm
on
not
child
sure.
rearing?
Look, women do fine on certain tests, but
We're doing great.
you're doing
On
great.
a lot of tests.
Sure.
Better than you.
Well, perhaps. I don't know.
No, I mean, the future
I
of-
defer to your knowledge of your...
The future of academia is unequivocally female. Do you deny that?
I agree that the future of academia is bleak. And so if you think that it implies that women will dominate academia, then you said it, not me. But I don't.
Because man, no one cares about no freaking school. Man, I'm not trying to go to school for 5-6 years and then be making $100K for the rest of my freaking life when I could start a business, start a YouTube channel, start a social media company, and actually speak how I want to speak and make tons of money and hire tons of people instead of working for someone because I got a freaking degree. That's how we're thinking nowadays. That's why y'all mass graduating from college, because most men are trying to go their own way. They don't want to be broke. They want to have a good family and live in good neighborhoods. So they really had to put that work in if they really want to make that much money. That's how it is right now. That's the only reason why we really don't care about college like that. Most men don't care about college nowadays. If you do a survey, most men don't want to go to college. They come out of high school to go get a trade, and then that's it. They start their own business, start something else on the side. If they want to go back to school for something, they do it. That's how we're thinking now, man. We thinking big.
I don't think that the future of anything is female. I think the future of the human race will be the complementarity of the sexes and marriages and children, or there will be no future of the human race.
This is something I also wanted to point out to earlier. You're saying that people are having less children, that's a bad thing, but I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. And the reason why, at least from what we see when we compare better developed countries to less developed countries, is that people are choosing to have fewer children, but they're choosing to invest more in those fewer children. So back in agricultural times, people had to have a lot of children because they had to have those children work in the farm, basically take over chores, take over a bunch of stuff. So they would have 7 or 8 children, a lot of times malnourished, a lot of them died, versus now where it's they might have 1 or 2 children, but those children are well fed, they're getting well educated.
They're getting all
in
the
a
best
stable
psychiatric
home.
drugs in the country.
Well, do you think that, I guess here's the other problem. Earlier on, we were talking about hey, you know what, things are getting better measured now than before. That's why the whole thing about people are less happy now is not necessarily true. Do you think that, let's say, middle of nowhere country in Africa or something, where they're malnourished, have a family of 7, do you think those people are happier because they can't report it? Or they're living technically more of a traditional lifestyle than somebody in a Nordic country or European country?
Yeah, I think the word traditional is doing a lot of work there. I agree that, sub-Saharan Africa and Oklahoma are different, but I don't think it's a totally fair comparison. And I agree it's better to be nourished than to be malnourished. I agree with that as well. But I don't think that one necessarily needs 2 lawyer incomes and a Tesla and a big screen TV and 5 iPhones to
And then freaking what's that thing called? The Vision Pro? To be freaking happy? Come on, stop it.
Be able to thrive and flourish. I think we've become far too materialistic, and we now know the price of everything and the value of nothing. So we've got more money than ever, but we're all miserable.
But
We
when
don't
you
have kids.
cited the data on the 2-parent households, but socioeconomic status and education, especially maternal education, are big predictors of childhood outcomes. So how come the data on two-parent households, we should follow that, but not the one on...
I'm fine with women being smart. I like when women are smart and well educated, because they're raising my children, One is raising my children. I'm not, if I were living in Africa, maybe I'd have 5.
This is where you deviate from the red pill.
Right, true. But, it is said that the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. So when a man chooses a woman to be his wife and to raise his family, he is entrusting her with his life, so I don't think he wants her to be a dummy or to be vicious or to be anything like that. He would have no incentive to do so.
But it's better to have fewer kids that you can, it seems like, provide more for and make sure than to have 10 kids and none of those kids end up being or flourishing.
I think it's good to be open to life. I think that one of the big problems in our society is that we've embraced sterility. So we're sterile intellectually, artistically, philosophically, and literally. We don't have any kids, and we exalt as some kind of supposed political right sterile forms of sex. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. And I think when you get married, to my earlier point, you're giving yourself wholly over to another person. And so you shouldn't withhold anything. You should be totally open to life for the unity of the spouses.
Is that practical in modern society? I feel like you have a very idealistic view.
Oh, no, I think I can tell you from experience.
Well, you're very
totally
successful.
Practical.
You're very
you.
successful.
That's
You're
very
not
kind.
struggling to feed your kids.
I'm not. I haven't been totally canceled yet. That's
Yeah.
true.
Wait.
But I know people who make less money than I do.
I have
a
some
lot less
points
money,
that-
and they've got 1 million kids, and they're very...
Right. Thank y'all for watching, man. Hopefully I enjoyed that. Peace.